Did you know that other countries send missionaries around the world?
Today, I'm going to tell you about a time I saw that happen. Thank you for joining us for episode 129 of Around the World with Joshua and Alyssa. Glad to have you along with us again as we take another look at Brazil. And I am excited to tell you about this one because it has a really neat eternal impact. So it's more than just going and seeing a place that's fun to look at or experience. This is about an event that took place in Brazil while we were there. This lady is Brazilian. She graduated from the seminary there where we visited, and I don't remember her name, but that's not what's important. What is important is she went to Bolivia as a missionary. And so there's a picture of Jamie and I at her commissioning and send-off service. And here's a picture of her with Uncle Jim and Aunt Julie, the missionaries who we spent time with while we were in Brazil. And what's neat about this is all these churches come together to commission these missionaries. It's not just her sending church, but everyone is so excited about their missionaries going out that they all get together to have this big service and celebration. And so this is a picture of what her service looked like.
Looks like it's at a camp.
It was actually in a gym. So if you can imagine, take away all those chairs and you can play basketball in here, or more likely to find soccer or football. Yeah, so it actually, next door to this, there was like a church building and
It's an outdoor space though, right?
Yeah, this is an outdoor.
Okay.
It's an enclosure, but yeah. Well, it's dark on the sides because that's the outdoors. So yes, it is an outdoor space. I don't know that it's owned by the church. It was just right next to the church property. And so yeah, all these people came, and I just had never experienced something like this here in the States. Like here in the States, if a church sends out a missionary, that church will have a service. But this is a lot of churches coming together and doing it. And it's just that big of a deal to them to do that and to support this lady. So during the service, this was one of the guys who got up, and I think this might have been one of her seminary professors. I can't remember for sure because that was 7 years ago, but I believe that's who it was who gave up and spoke. And Uncle Jim spoke, and of course he worked with her at the seminary, and Aunt Julie spent a lot of time working with her. In fact, 3 years earlier when I was there, I believe she was taking one of her classes. And then they had a group of kids come up and sing a song, and that was a lot of fun to watch and to listen to. You can see some of them are just really getting into it. And then here's somebody else from the seminary, another young lady who shared something as well.
Is that the Bolivian flag?
Yes, I believe so. Red, yellow, and green, but it has that little
Emblem
in the middle. Yep. And then this was after the service. She got one of the instruments that's native to Bolivia and is playing some music on it while people are singing along with her.
I think they use it in Peru too. Isn't it the pan flute or
Probably.
pan pipe or something like that? It's got a cool, like, haunting kind of sound to it.
Yeah. I believe that is what it is then. And then at the end of the service, several people came up, and this was their way of laying hands on her and praying over her. And so that was really neat to see. I don't remember how long the service was. It was a good length, and it was late at night. Well, it wasn't late at night. It was at night. The sun goes down a lot earlier over there. But I mean, I don't remember people falling asleep or anything. There was just so much energy and excitement in the room to send her off to become a missionary in Bolivia. It was just one of those experiences that I'll remember for a very long time.
It's cool. It makes you wonder if that's what it was more like back in the original church days, like when they first sent out missionaries, if they all like got together because it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe.
So I wish I could see something like that happen here in the States, and I'm sure maybe it does somewhere, but
Yeah.
I had never experienced it, so it was just really cool.
That's cool. Well, I have some more story for us today. We left off last time with oh my goodness, now I can't think of the little girl. Jenny. With Jenny making a big life decision, and so she was no longer living in darkness anymore, but now she was living and walking in light because now she trusted Jesus as her Savior. But now we're going to flip back to one of our characters from the beginning of the story, and it seems like it's been forever since we talked about this character. So we took a little pause when we were telling the story of Jenny, but there was also this guy and his little sister. Remember Hamid and his sister Kinza? So they're still around. Remember, because Kinza was like going to picnics and stuff with Jenny and her aunt. Like, here they are together. And Jenny was learning some good lessons about responding to other people and understanding what it was like for Kinza to be blind too. Well, Hamid's job was still in the village, and he was still working like for a shopkeeper, where he was helping with the fire, and then he was putting donuts on little reed sticks. And he kept doing that work for a long time, and a lot of times he liked to go after he was done with his work to the nurse's house, and she would teach him some Bible stories, and he was so excited to learn the stories about the Bible because now he trusted in the light of Jesus, and he understood that he wasn't living in darkness anymore. And so he just soaked up those stories as fast as he could. But when the nurse had some of her family from England come to visit, he felt like they kind of took his place. He didn't feel like he should still go and keep learning stories until maybe the family members were gone. And he was especially jealous of that little girl who looked all fancy. And he thought maybe she was really taking his place. But he found out later it was just the nurse's niece, Jenny. Well, during this time, he kind of like would watch out for what the nurse was doing and how Kinza was doing, but he just didn't really bother them very much. And he was working with his donuts, and all of a sudden he saw something that made his heart almost stop altogether. And it was a person. It was his stepfather, and his stepfather was in the village where Hamid was and his sister, and he just couldn't believe it. As soon as he saw him, he ducked behind the counter and kept blowing on the fire to make it bigger and kept working with the donuts, but he thought, I have to do something right away. If he catches me, he's going to want me to go get Kinza, and then we have to go back to the village together, so I can't let him catch me. Kinza will be safe, though, because she'll be with the nurse and the English people, her family that are with her, so I think Kinza will be okay, but I've got to get away, right now. And so without even telling the shopkeeper, Hamid just took off. And he ran running all the way up till he got to the hills, and he found some trees and bushes and kind of hid out there. And his plan was to stay there for like a couple days because then he thought it would be safe then to be able to go back to the village and maybe his stepfather would be gone. Well, the next morning, he heard someone calling out, Hamid, we need your help. One of your friends said he thought he saw you running this way. Hamid thought about it, and he looked between the trees, and it was the nurse. Well, of course, he had to answer her. So he dropped out of the tree that he was hiding in, and she was startled. She said, you boys are so good at hiding and appearing and disappearing in areas. But she said, Hamid, we have a big problem. We were watching your sister, and I had my niece Kinza watch her for a little bit, and she was just playing with her, and then all of a sudden Kinza disappeared, and we don't know where she is. And Hamid's heart just sunk. He knew what had happened. He said, well, she's probably captured by my stepfather. And the nurse said, well, he's a long ways away from here. He's back in your village. Hamid shook his head. He said, no, he's not. I saw him yesterday in the village, and I was scared, and so I ran up here, and I thought you could keep Kinza safe. Why didn't you keep her safe? And the nurse said, Hamid, we didn't know. We didn't know that we were supposed to be watching out for her extra, or to be aware that your stepfather was here. We didn't even know what he looks like. And you just ran away without letting us know. Then Hamid kind of felt bad. He should have let the nurse know. And the nurse said, well, honey, we need to get her back because your stepfather is not going to treat her well. So we need your help to find your city, your town out in the country, and we need to know which house is yours so we can get her back. And Hamid said, no, I can't go. Do you know what my stepfather will do to me if he gets me too? And the nurse assured him, no, it's okay. We'll protect you. My family has a car, remember? They'll help drive us out to your village, and we'll make sure that you're safe, and it's okay. And it took a lot of convincing. But eventually, Hamid gave in, and he was sure that they were going to protect him and make sure that he would be able to make it back. Well, they got in the car, and he gave them directions through which cities to go, and they drove through many villages, and the closer and closer he got, the more nervous and scared he got. But Hamid also was thinking about someone he wanted to see, and that was his mother. He hadn't seen her in such a long time. He really wanted to be able to see her, but he really wanted to get Kinza back too. But how was his stepfather going to respond? And you're going to have to come back next time to find out the last part of the story.
I wasn't ready for that to end right there. I didn't finish my snack.
Oh, sorry.
Next time. All right. Well, moving on, we are going to talk about some missionaries down in South America who you should be familiar with by now. Our church supports them, and that is the Flinks in Chile. So
We like Chile. That's nearby Peru.
So let me pull up this picture of them. There's the Flink family, all looking a little older than they did when they visited us a few years ago. And I asked them how their church has been doing lately. And he said, by the grace of God, the Antofagasta church has been growing. Back in October, they were able to return to their building for services after 2 years of the pandemic and COVID restrictions. And there has been a steady number of visitors over the last 6 months. Many of them have continued to attend. So here's a nice picture of them. And remember, they were just like getting into a new building before the COVID restrictions came. So now their building is done and they finally get to meet in it. A few Sundays ago, they baptized 4 ladies in the Pacific Ocean after the morning service. We'll get to that in a moment. I almost forgot. I have a video to show you that he sent us. So let's get this going for you. This is outside the building. You can hear they are singing. Great as I think. Church there in Antofagasta, and here's another picture from up above if you were to walk up those steps. And now, as I just mentioned a moment ago, they were able to baptize those 4 ladies, one of which was their daughter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's really neat. I asked them how God led them to Chile because I had never heard that before. And he said that Christy was born in Chile.
Oh.
Her parents were and still are missionaries down there in Chile. They met at Northland Baptist Bible College, and then he was a missions major, and in between his junior and senior year, he went on a missions internship to Chile. This wasn't him back at that time, of course. This is him now. But then after graduating, he and Christy got married, and they moved to Minnesota, where he is from, and studied at Central Baptist Theological Seminary. And then they joined Gospel Mission of South America and were sent out by his church, Berean Baptist Church in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. They arrived on the field in January 2009.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you graduated from high school.
Yeah, and when you say it like that, it doesn't feel like they've been there very long.
In that sense, it doesn't.
Yeah. I asked them how their support level is, because the economies all over the world have been kind of interesting for the last 2 to 3 years. And he said that they are praising the Lord for his faithful provision, and through their supporting churches. This past year, their support level was maintained at 100%.
Wow, that's so great.
Yeah. He says since the election of the socialistic President Boric back in March of 2022, the economy has seen inflation. And now we've seen inflation here in the States too, but if it's worse in another country, that is actually good for their money, because that makes their money that's coming in more valuable.
Their U.S. money.
Yes, correct. So then when they exchange it over to their Chilean money, which is the peso, it's better for them. So it has been good for the last year. I asked for praises and prayer requests. This is all the 4 of them who are living there right now, because their 2 oldest are here in the States at Faith Baptist Bible College. And they're praising the Lord, though, because Jordan and Ben were able to visit them in December and January. And their prayer requests are concerning those kids as well. Jordan will be graduating in May at FBBC, and he has plans to continue studying at the seminary there. Ben is finishing his junior year and will be going on a missions internship in Argentina and Chile this summer for about 10 weeks.
Oh, cool.
Kaylee, their daughter, the one who got baptized, will be starting her freshman year at Faith this fall in Iowa. She plans to study biblical counseling, so pray for God's provision for her school bill and for transition back to life in the U.S. And then also, this was exciting to read. They are transitioning out of Antofagasta to the new city of Arica, 9 hours north. Now remember, Chile is really long, so 9 hours north, you're still in the country. And the goal is to plant a new church in this city, which is located on the Chile-Peru border.
There's also a lot of mountains in Chile, too, so that 9 hours might include some mountain driving.
Yeah, you're true. But I can't remember, if you were to take Chile, I think if you lay it sideways, it reaches from the west coast to the east coast
it's
of the
huge.
U.S. So, I mean...
Especially, like, all the little islands and stuff at the bottom. Like,
yeah.
It's a long country.
Yeah, so... Anyway, so that'll be a big move for them, but that is both a prayer request and a huge praise, because that means that this church that they've been working at is ready for them to leave and to continue on without them. So that's what they want, and to see that goal achieved is a really good thing.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you come back next week for the last part of our story and a little review of all the different missionaries and people we've talked about, and one more thing about Brazil.
Yep. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.
Bye.